Welcome to the Rise to Next Level podcast. Hosted by Zay Johnson.
It's the snap. It's a reverse. He's at the 10, the 5, touchdown!
And brought to you by Marcon Sports.
What a shot!
Leveling up young athletes with real advice from high school to college sports.
Home run!
Let's go.
All right, welcome into the Rising to the Next Level podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Johnson, or you can call me Zay Johnson. I'm super excited for this podcast as this is going to be something for the younger generation, for your athletes that are going from high school, crossing over to college, whether that be you're in middle school and you're preparing for high school, or maybe you're even younger and you just got big dreams. Our goal is to make sure that we give you the right guidelines and give you the right advice to make sure that you take the right steps moving forward and you don't take any wasted steps. And I'm a big believer in listening to people who have done the things that we want to achieve. I'm a big believer in if you listen to people who have walked the path that we want to walk, that is the best way to reach success. So that is what the Rising to the Next Level podcast is going to try to bring to its viewers every single episode. And with that being said, our first guest is a man that goes by the name of Jose Gumbs. Jose played football at Hebron Academy and went on to finish his collegiate career at Monmouth University. Jose Gumbs was signed to the New Orleans Saints in 2012 and also went on to play for the Chiefs and the Redskins. Gumbs made his debut against my Dallas Cowboys, and he would have his first start just 2 games later against the Denver Broncos. In college, he was dominant, preseason All-NEC selection, former NEC Defensive Player and Rookie of the Year, 2-time All-NEC selection, a physical player who can play linebacker or safety. And Jose Gumbs, I want to thank you for taking the time to join the podcast today. And how are you feeling?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, Zay. I feel great. I appreciate you guys having me here today and ready to rock and roll on the podcast.
Yes, sir. And I'll let you know, this is something personally for me. It's super cool because my whole life grew up watching football, playing football, always wanted to make that next step. And I didn't necessarily get there. So when I have the opportunity to talk to someone who did, I'm always intrigued to, get into, pick their brain a little bit, even if it is just whether it's conversation, randomly out at a store or it's something like this. So
yes, sir.
I'm excited for this one. So one of the first questions I want to ask is nowadays with all this NIL, right? It's completely taken over like recruiting. So even for me, I was class of 2016 out of high school. So for me, there was no NIL really involved. There wasn't like this school is going to pay me or this school is going to pay me. So I think a lot of times the biggest issue when I can say we were getting recruited, the biggest thing was kids were always so focused on, I got to go D1. I played football in Illinois, so we didn't naturally just have, the big time schools always just coming there naturally. So for us, it was like, man, if we don't get to go D1, we're not going to the league. We had some guys go to Monmouth and they didn't have the mindset that they would be able to pull that off. So what would you say to some of the kids who are maybe so focused on just going to the big time school? They don't want to listen to maybe some of the schools that would play them, give them a more, successful opportunity.
In all honesty, I was also one of those kids. I wanted to go Division One. Actually, was going to try to transfer out of Monmouth University and go to NC State, but I had to sit with myself and just think about it. I'm like, listen, why would you go to a bigger school with more competition when you could be a big fish in a small pond? And a lot of kids get caught up in, oh no, I want to be in Alabama, I want to be in University of Florida. But sometimes what happens is that your gift gets hidden away. There's other guys that has more priorities because maybe the parents know the coach a little more, whatever the case may be, because it's still a business as you know. But I feel like wherever you go, if you perform, they'll find you. I played with Pierre Garçon, and Pierre Garçon played Division III, and he ended up having a great career.
Mm-hmm.
So for all those kids who want to go Division I and get paid a lot of money, it's cool right now today because I really don't understand it. But during our time, it's more of let's grind wherever you at. If you should put numbers up, I promise you scouts will come out. Coaches talk, scouts talk, and when they hear about somebody, they'll call up their boy and be like, yo, I think you got to come here and check this boy out. I think he's a NFL product.
Yeah, and that's a big thing that a lot of kids don't realize is it's much easier for a coach to have connections to a D1 than it is for like a player who wants to get that connection. So you can be at a smaller school your coach at the D3, he could have a direct contact to an NFL scout as far as you're concerned. So you go somewhere, if you ball out, you're going to be found. So you don't have to don't, just kick all of these other schools to the curb. Because I remember in junior college, I saw UNM had like sent me like some type of interest thing. And I was like, UNM, no way. And then I ended up in New Mexico Highlands, and UNM is like the king of New Mexico, and then Highlands is a D2 in New Mexico. So it was like a full circle moment. I'm like, man, you got to, you get humbled sometimes. And
Absolutely.
yeah, another thing I want to ask you is so put yourself back in high school before you were crossing over to college. What would you say is the top three things that you wish, if you could go back in time, you would, like, hindsight's 2020, of course. What would you say the top three things are that you wish you would have done differently crossing over from high school, preparing for college? Because I know you said you want to transfer to NC State. So do you think there's anything you could have done differently that would have put you in that position in high school?
If I would have changed my mindset, I feel like I focused more on what school I wanted to go to rather than worrying about what am I producing. And a lot of kids get caught up in like, oh, who's watching me? What letters am I getting at home? This is and that. Look at so and so's highlight. Let me, compare my numbers with this guy's numbers. Look, we the same height, running the same speed, and how come he's getting Division One schools? I got caught up in that too. Instead of just focusing on, listen, just stay in shape, keep your mindset right. Where it's like, wherever I go, I'm still gonna produce. Even if there's people that's above me, I'm gonna keep my head down and just shoot for the stars.
So you did.
And the third one would be just stay committed. Stay committed, stay disciplined on what you have to do. A lot of kids, they young and they want to be partying at that time. They're gonna be a senior. Oh, let's go hang out. Listen, if you shut that thing down and just focus on what you have to, it'll literally like catapult you to where you have to go.
So do you think that, like, getting caught up and looking at other people and what they got, do you think that like held you back, whether it was in the weight room? Do you think it was like before the game you weren't in the mindset you should have been in to have a better game? Like maybe you bid on a route that you shouldn't have bid on because you want to get that extra interception for the stat, like that type of deal?
Yeah, absolutely. And you get caught up in that false dopamine because you start
Mm.
watching these other people's highlight, and then it puts you in a depression where now you don't want to go work out.
Oh my
It's like,
God.
oh man, why? Look at this guy. How come he's getting these looks and I'm not? You know what? F it, I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not. I'm not. All right. Instead of just focusing on what you have to, and I promise you, that they will find you.
Now, for those watching, let me tell you, he's speaking directly to me, literally, but also he's speaking directly to me because that's what I did. Like, and I did that, and I went out, and mentally, it tore me apart because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at guys, and for me, I'm about what 6'4", 240, 245. So I'm looking at guys in my size group. I'm like Khalil Mack, Micah Parsons, and I'm like, man, how come I can't bend the corner like that? How come I can't throw a guy with one arm? Like if I can't do that, then there's no point me being out here. Instead of just focusing on getting better day by day. So that's key advice. Another good thing I want to ask is, when did you notice that you were starting to separate yourself from your peers, and what do you think was a reason for that? Of course, I know a lot of us believe that we got a lot of God-given talent, and of course we do. But what did you do off the field, on the field? What were some things that you did and you noticed it started to separate yourself from the rest of your peers, and you were like, I probably have a shot to get into the NFL?
Ooh. In all honesty, my story was a lot different. Like I didn't really have that much peers like in Hebron Academy. I went to
Mm.
school at Marvin Van Buren High School in Queens, New York, and I started off there. But they didn't have any football team. It was baseball, but I had friends there.
Wow.
So me ended up going to boarding school up in Maine was one of the best decisions that ever happened because it was a school that was from freshman to senior year that was literally 200 people all together. So it was a school where it was like everybody was had a focused mindset where you have people that want to do hockey, people that's doing baseball. It's every sport, every season you have to play a sport. So I didn't really have to separate from my peers because I was already separated by the universe.
Got you.
So my thing was like, listen, you're gonna stay here, you're gonna focus, and that was the best decision I ever made because I wasn't worried about any friends back home. It was literally go work out because we up in Maine in the middle of nowhere, mind you. So what are you gonna do? You can't do
Wow.
nothing else but go to the gym on your off days, go to the mall for a little bit, come back, work out, get your schoolwork done, and that's about it. So my thing was like separated from the peers. I didn't really have to, but yes, I feel like those kids that are still in the inner cities and whatnot, they need to separate themselves because what will happen is almost like that example they give about the spaceship. The spaceship has these two equipment that can only take them but so far, but then it has to separate for it to go higher. And I feel like a lot of these kids think that, oh, I gotta take my friends with me. I'm like, no, you don't, because they're gonna hold you back. It's cool if they're supporting you and they're in the same vision, but if they're doing something else that has nothing to do with your path, you have to get rid of them. Even if you guys say what's up to them from a distance, just don't hang out with them.
And that's the biggest thing. And that's a really, really key thing is you got so many people who could have been so many places, but they chose being loyal to their friends over going where they're supposed to be. But here's the bad part about it. You got to be careful for these types of friends. You got some friends who either A, they want you to do well until they see you doing better than them. That's number one. Number two, you've got your friends who, when you're going and you're becoming successful at something, if you're more successful at what you're doing than they are at something that they're up to, maybe there's a day where you make a good play at practice and you want to come home and you're like, yo, I did this at practice. Sometimes they're not trying to hear that. The group try to go quiet and you're wondering how come, why is no one really talking about that? It's because, look, like you guys have different interests. So maybe it's not personal, but if someone's got a different path than you, in order for you to get to where you actually need to go, like you said with the spaceship, you have to cut off some of the dead weight. And if they're really your friend, they'll be happy for you.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
very
be,
true.
you
And
know,
Zay, to touch base on that too, is almost like there are people that love the underdog story, but they hate success. If you
yeah,
ever notice, they always want the underdog team to win. They want the underdog person to win. But once they make it, it's like, oh my God, look at so and so showing off, or he think he's better than that. He don't even come back over here. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go back because right now, if I go back, you guys gonna bring me back to where I was, and I don't
ooh,
want to do that. It's almost like being a caterpillar going to a cocoon stage, becoming a butterfly, and the other caterpillars say, no, come back over here. I'm like, nah, bro,
nah,
I'm flying higher than that. I can't. So I feel like when you focus on what you have to do in your destiny, sky's the limit. So just stay focused.
I love that, and I love that. Okay, so what are some of your favorite drills? So some of the young guys, I know it's a big thing, especially now you got your cameras and everyone's doing the content creating. What would you say? Number one, I know a lot of old school guys are like, look, you don't have to record everything, and I agree. But for those who do like to do it, on or off camera, what were some of your favorite drills that you felt translated the best directly to the field? Because you got these guys who go out and they train, 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 but they don't do things that actually translate to playing, and I think it's really important. So for maybe a DB or a safety or maybe even just agility training, what were some of your favorite drills? And you were like, I like doing those. I notice a difference.
For me, it was like in the weight room was more like those explosive power cleans because I was an explosive player.
Hmm.
Number two was conditioning because if you're not conditioned, I promise you, you'll last 1 or 2 quarters and you're done. And it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And number three is work on your craft. Like if I'm a DB, I'm gonna work on DB work, one-on-ones with wide receivers, have a quarterback there, share knowledges. Like, okay, what did you see that I did wrong? Make sure you're there with somebody that understands what you're doing and wants to go to the same level. Because if not, they're gonna make you go down south. But yeah, those are the top three. Just focus on those little things, like, and work on it 100% at 100 miles an hour. Because a lot of guys will go over there, start jogging. I'm like, listen, you're not doing anything. You're wasting so much time doing this. Work like you're playing the game.
Hmm.
And I feel like some of these guys don't, like, even in the gym when I'm pulling weights, like when I was power cleaning, I think it was like my highest in high school was probably like 250, maybe that, if I can remember. But when I was power cleaning, I didn't just do it just to do it. Like I was doing it like, listen, I'm putting the force through the ground for me to lift it up and get underneath it and lift it up too at the same time. And
Hmm.
whenever I made a tackle, that's the same exact way I felt. I felt the ground first with the same foot, same shoulders, and I went through the person. And it was the same way in the gym.
Okay, love that. So basically, lift how you play, lift with intent. Lift with
Yes,
intent. Don't just lift in there so you can look in the mirror and look good. Lift with
exactly.
intent. And
Yes.
I think that's,
With good form too, because you don't
oh
want to hurt yourself.
yeah, do not get out there and hurt yourself. Okay, so speaking of explosiveness and drills, recently I seen Deion Sanders and Asante Samuel going back and forth on Twitter because they were talking about should you T-step or not. And Deion Sanders takes a guy and he's like, "Let me show you how stupid it is to T-step." And he stands with him and they backpedal and he says, "Now let's walk forward." And they just stop and walk forward. And he says, "Why didn't you T-step?" And then Asante Samuel gets on Twitter and says, "This is foolish. Keep T-stepping Young Bucks." So I'm sure you know what I mean by T-step, but for those who may not know, This is when, say, you're backpedaling coverage and then you're making your break on the football. It's almost like, I don't know if you want to say you open up your hip and plant, but it's like, rather, do you kind of plant at an angle or do you just stop and break and explode forward? What's your take on that?
I was never taught to T-step, so I was never a big person on T-stepping. Like I even have old pictures I think on my Facebook when we was doing DB drills, and there's no T-stepping there. But you also got to be careful because if you got weak Achilles, you can snap it. But for me, I think just straight backpedaling coming off that break, man, because any wasted step is within inches of. It's the difference between scoring a touchdown, allowing a touchdown, sorry, or getting a pick.
Yeah,
So that T step, yes, if your hips are good and you could explode out of that, cool, do it. But for the majority of those DBs, man, don't T step. But if it works for you, go ahead do your thing though, because everybody's body is different.
yeah,
So obviously, like you see Deion Sanders and Asante Samuel. Who was it? Asante Samuel? You said
yeah. Asante Samuel.
Asante Samuel. They both had two distinctive body and athleticism. So for him, something might work. For the other person, it wouldn't.
Hmm.
So it's like you can't really compare oranges to apples, even though they're fruits.
Yeah, that Achilles, man, those Achilles injuries, they terrify me. That is my scariest thing. Playing D line, I was almost scared to try to get off the ball too strong because I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna snap my Achilles if I press too hard.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you start feeling that little tingling on the Achilles. I'm like, what
Mm,
is that? I'm
mm-mm.
like, listen, I don't want to snap it. I don't know what's going on, so I'm gonna just take it easy a little bit. I'm gonna go down to 70%, and sometimes you have to because that one play where you snap it, that's your whole season right there.
Yeah, and hopefully, if you're young, it shouldn't be career, but for a lot of guys, it was.
Yes.
All right, so the last question I want to ask is: so Travis Hunter, he's playing both sides of the football, and he's going to try to do it in the league. I know you play DB. The first part of the question is: do you think you could have done it? And number two, do you think it's something that should become a trend? Do you think players should look at that as something? Okay, maybe I could try to do that, or do you think kids should just focus on playing one side of the football and mastering the craft? Because you know what they say: if you try to focus on too many different things, you can't master one.
Absolutely, and there's also saying about it that you chase two rabbits, you'll catch none. But
Mhm.
I don't know. Are you speaking about him transitioning to the NFL and playing both sides, right?
Yeah, so like, do you think it's something? Do you think he should be an inspiration for younger kids? Like, I'm going to try to do that too, or do you think he should just be the golden unicorn of this generation, and that shouldn't become a trend?
And honestly, in my opinion, I hope it works out for him. It's just hard for me to see how it'll work out. I haven't seen somebody do it 100% of the time.
Hmm.
Like I've seen who was it, Charles
Yeah,
Woodson?
Charles Woodson.
Yeah, he did it, but he did it in college level.
Yeah, Miles Jack did at college too, right?
Yeah, but now in the NFL was different because now when you go into like the meeting room, we do the team meetings, then we
Hmm.
separate offense and defense, and we literally implementing playbooks. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay, so when you installing plays in defense, they're also installing plays on offense. Which was he learning? Because now is
yeah.
he going to be doing both at the same time, or are they going to make it where during the team meetings or whatever the case may be, one day is offense, one day is defense, but he's going to miss on all those days
Hmm.
because every single day, even they'll teach us about 5 to 10 plays. You got to go through it in practice during walkthrough and jogs and when in full throttle. But the next day they're gonna implement more and the ones that you had the day before. So
Yeah,
it's like, how is he
yeah.
gonna be able to learn both sides of the field at the same time? So that's just a question on how he's gonna be coached, how the coach is gonna implement it. And I hope it works. I think it could because he has the ability, but it's just learning the playbook. Are they gonna simplify it to the point where it's like we'll give you a wristband with the play on there and just run the
Yeah.
route, whatever the case may be. So we'll
So,
see.
so you think kids should probably just focus on one thing? I know a lot of times when you're younger, like especially in high school too. Like in New Mexico here, they got a lot of smaller leagues. Not that many people at the school. And I called one game and there was 18 people on the football team, and you get guys playing both ways. So I'm like, they have to play both ways. But I feel like if it's a choice, you should try to focus on one side. But if you have to, then of course you got to do what you can for your team.
Absolutely, and also I'm gonna go back to that. Deion Sanders was also a
Yeah,
former
I was
NFL
gonna say him.
player, and he was also able to implement that in a high level of football with him. So if he could do it in college, I'm pretty sure he could do it in the NFL. So I'll take that back. My apologies. Yes, kids, go ahead do your thing. But for me, if you're good in both sides of the field, go ahead and do it. If you're decent in one and better in the other one, focus on what you're better at.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what I think.
Yeah, and then Dion, of course, in Travis's to his defense, he's got Dion directly to help him out, so that maybe
Absolutely.
not everyone's going to have a Dion Sanders in their corner.
Yes.
Well, hey, I appreciate you, Jose. Thank you for coming on and hopping on this podcast. The first episode, it's going to go down as one of the best ones. I know it for sure. You were great on here. I appreciate you for taking the time out of your Saturday.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, Zay Johnson.
Yeah, you have a great one, Jose
You
Gumbs.
too, brother.
Yes, sir. Former NFL player, hopped on the first episode of Rising to the Next Level, and that's going to wrap it up. So, just to kind of recap it, some of the highlights of, the interview. He says, don't focus on going to the big school, okay? If you're going to ball out, you're going to ball out. And if you ball out, coaches will talk, coaches will see, and it is a very, very connected industry with the scouts, with the coaching staffs. That's why every season you see so many different coaches end up at different locations because they bounce around like frogs all through the industry. So that's number one. Another thing, lift with intent. Don't just lift to look good in the mirror. Of course, it looks good to show everybody your progress, but it feels a lot better to show everybody your progress on the football field. Because how many times have we seen the weight room warriors? They get on the football field and they can't move. They get on the football field and they can't hit. They can't do anything because they've been focusing on doing curls and they're not doing things that actually translate to the field. So you want to make sure you hit that as well. Um, Another thing he says is if you're going to try to play both sides of the ball, make sure, hey, you better be a great student. You better be somebody who learns fast, learns well. You need to be somebody who, if you come in the meeting late and the coach says, hey, catch him up real fast, you better be able to catch up quick because you already know how meetings are. Right after meetings, you're in the locker room, you're getting ready for practice. Okay. If it's after practice meetings, you're ready to go home and eat because you got homework to do. So there's a lot of things going on, and you want to make sure that you learn fast and you're a great learner. So with those 3 points, I think that's a great first episode. I appreciate all the viewers who clicked on this, and I'm glad that we had such a great first guest, Jose Gums, to hop on here. And again, he's someone who's done it before. Okay, even if it sounds cliche, it should stick more when it comes out of someone's mouth who's done it before. So we will see you on the next episode. We're going to have another great guest lined up for you. I appreciate you guys. Once again, I'm your host, Isaiah Johnson. This is Rising to the Next Level, and I'll catch you in the next one.